My name is Amanda. I'm 26 years old, and I'm exhausted in a way that sleep can't fix. I don't mean the kind of tired you feel after a long day at work or even after a sleepless night. I mean the bone deep, soul crushing exhaustion that comes from living a life where you are constantly needed, constantly moving, constantly performing, and yet somehow still invisible. I'm tired of being everything to everyone while feeling like nothing to the one person who should see me most. I live in a modest two-bedroom apartment in suburban Ohio with my husband, Derek, and our 8-month-old son, Mason. On paper, I have everything I was told to want: a marriage, a baby, a home. But the reality is that I'm drowning, and no one, not even my husband, seems to notice. Let me take you back to the beginning, because I think it's important you understand how I got here. How a girl who once had dreams, ambitions, and a sense of self became a ghost in her own life. I met Derek when I was 22. I had just graduated with a degree in graphic design and was working freelance, trying to build a portfolio and make a name for myself. He was charming, confident, the kind of guy who could walk into a room and command attention without even trying. He worked in sales, cars specifically, and he was good at it. He knew how to sell a dream. And God, did he sell me one. We dated for a year before he proposed. It was romantic, or at least it felt that way at the time. He took me to this little Italian restaurant we used to go to, got down on one knee, and promised me forever. I said yes without hesitation. I was in love, and I believed, truly believed, that we were building something together. The wedding was small, just family and close friends. My mom cried. His mom gave a speech about how lucky I was to have found such a good man. I remember feeling like I was floating, like I was stepping into the life I was supposed to have. I didn't see the cracks then. I didn't see the pattern that was already forming. We got pregnant 6 months after the wedding. It wasn't planned, but Derek seemed excited. He talked about being a dad, about teaching his son to play football, about all the things they do together. I was nervous, terrified actually, but I was also hopeful. I thought a baby would bring us closer. I thought it would give us purpose. I was so naive. Mason was born on a cold February morning after 18 hours of labor. Derek was there, of course. He held my hand, took pictures, posted on Facebook about how proud he was, how strong I was, how much he loved us. The comments poured in. What a great dad already. You guys are going to be amazing parents. So lucky to have such a supportive husband. But here's what those people didn't see. They didn't see that 2 days after we brought Mason home, he went back to work and left me alone with a screaming newborn and a body that felt like it had been torn apart. They didn't see that he came home that first night, looked at the dishes piled in the sink, and asked, "What did you do all day?" What did I do all day? I fed our son. I changed his diapers. I rocked him to sleep. I cried in the bathroom because my stitches hurt and my breasts were engorged and I hadn't slept more than 2 hours at a time in days. I Googled, is it normal to feel like you're dying after giving birth, and how to stop a baby from crying, and postpartum depression symptoms at 3 in the morning while Derek snored in our bed. But sure, Derek, what did I do all day? That was 8 months ago, and nothing has changed. If anything, it's gotten worse. Let me walk you through a typical day in my life, because I think that's the only way you'll truly understand what I mean when I say I'm drowning. My alarm goes off at 5:30 a.m. I don't set it. My body just wakes up at that time now, conditioned by months of early mornings. I slip out of bed quietly, tearful not to wake Derek. He needs his sleep, after all. He has to work. I tiptoe into Mason's room. He's still asleep, his little chest rising and falling in the dim glow of the nightlight. I have maybe 30 minutes before he wakes up, and I need to use that time wisely. I go to the kitchen and start making Derek's breakfast. Nothing fancy, scrambled eggs, toast, coffee. He likes his eggs a certain way, not too runny but not too dry, and if I get it wrong, he'll sigh like I've ruined his entire day. So I focus. I make them perfect. While the eggs are cooking, I pack his lunch, a sandwich, turkey and Swiss, no mayo, extra mustard, an apple, and a bag of granola bars. I've been doing this every single day since Mason was born, and before that, honestly, Derek says it saves money, that buying lunch every day is wasteful, and he's right, I guess. But it's one more thing on my endless list of things I have to do. By the time I finish, it's 6 a.m., and I hear Mason stirring in his crib. I pour Derek's coffee into a travel mug, set his breakfast on the table, and rush to get Mason before he starts crying. If he cries, Derek will wake up irritated, and I'll spend the rest of the day walking on eggshells. I lift Mason out of his crib, and he smiles at me, this big, gummy, heart-melting smile. And for a moment, just a moment, the exhaustion fades. I love him so much it hurts. He didn't ask for any of this. He didn't ask to be born into a home where his father sees him as a prop, and his mother is too tired to enjoy him the way she should. I change his diaper, put him in a clean onesie, and carry him to the living room. I set him in his playpen with some toys and turn on the TV some baby show with bright colors and annoying songs that I've seen so many times I could recite the dialogue in my sleep. Derek comes out of the bedroom at 6:30, already dressed for work. He kisses the top of my head as he passes, grabs his breakfast, and sits down at the table. He scrolls through his phone while he eats, barely acknowledging me or Mason. "Thanks for breakfast," he says absently, and I nod. "Did you pack my lunch?" "Yeah, it's in the fridge." Cool. That's the extent of our morning conversation. No, how are you? No, did you sleep okay? No, can I help with anything? Just transactional exchanges, like I'm his assistant rather than my wife. He finishes eating, grabs his lunch, and heads for the door. "Have a good day," I call after him. "You too." And then he's gone. The apartment feels quieter after he leaves, but not in a peaceful way. It's the kind of quiet that feels heavy, oppressive, like the walls are closing in. Mason starts fussing, so I pick him up and carry him to the kitchen. I need to feed him, and then I need to clean up Derek's breakfast dishes, and then I need to start a load of laundry, and then I need to figure out what to make for dinner tonight, because Derek texted me yesterday reminding me that we're out of his favorite pasta sauce. I strap Mason into his high chair and heat up and char up baby food. Sweet potatoes and carrots. He makes a mess, as always, getting more food on his face and bib than in his mouth, but I don't mind. At least he's happy. While he eats, I load the dishwasher. There are dishes from last night's dinner still in the sink because I was too tired to deal with them after putting Mason to bed. Derek walked past them without a word, grabbed a beer from the fridge, and settled onto the couch to play his video game. I finish loading the dishwasher, wipe down the counters, and sweep the floor. Mason is done eating, so I clean his face and hands, lift him out of the high chair, and carry him to the living room. I set him back in his playpen and start folding the laundry I washed yesterday. This is my life. This endless cycle of cleaning, cooking, caregiving, and the worst part, no one sees it. No one acknowledges it. Derek certainly doesn't. Around mid-noon, I'm already exhausted, and I still have the entire day ahead of me. I need to vacuum, do another load of laundry, plan dinner, go to the grocery store, and somehow keep Mason entertained and happy through all of that. I used to be someone, you know? I used to have hobbies, interests, a career I cared about. I used to meet friends for coffee, go to art galleries, spend hours sketching and designing. But all of that feels like a lifetime ago, like it happened to a different person. Now I'm just Amanda, Derek's wife, Mason's mom, the woman who makes sure everyone else's needs are met while her own slowly disappear. Around noon, I managed to get Mason down for a nap. I should use this time to rest, but I can't. There's too much to do. I start prepping dinner: chicken, rice, and vegetables. Something simple but filling. Derek doesn't like anything too fancy, so I've learned to keep things basic. While the chicken marinades, I throw another load of laundry into the washer and tackle the bathroom. It's disgusting. Toothpaste splatters on the mirror, hair in the sink, a toilet that hasn't been cleaned in over a week. I scrub until my hands hurt, until the bathroom looks presentable again. Mason wakes up crying and I drop everything to get him. He's teething, which means he's been extra fussy lately. I give him a teething ring and hold him close, swaying back and forth until he calms down. The rest of the afternoon blurs together. I feed Mason again, play with him, change his diaper multiple times, try to keep him from getting into things he shouldn't. I glance at the clock every so often, counting down the hours until Derek gets home. But here's the thing. I'm not counting down because I'm excited to see him. I'm counting down because I'm hoping, desperately hoping, that maybe today he'll help. Maybe today he'll take Mason for a bit so I can catch my breath. Maybe today he'll ask how I'm doing. He gets home at 5:30 just as I'm pulling the chicken out of the oven. He walks in, tosses his keys on the counter, and immediately heads for the couch. "Hey," he says, grabbing the remote. "Hey," I reply. "Dinner's almost ready." "Cool." He turns on his game, and that's it. No offer to help, no acknowledgement of the fact that I have been on my feet all day. Mason crawls over to him, babbling excitedly, but Derek barely glances at him. "Not now, buddy," he says, eyes glued to the screen. "Daddy's tired." I want to scream. I want to throw the plate of chicken at the TV and demand that he see me, really see me. But I don't. I just set the table, serve dinner, and sit down across from him in silence. This is my life, and I don't know how much longer I can keep living it. If you were to scroll through Derek's Instagram right now, you'd think he was Father of the Year. There's a photo from last week. Derek holding Mason in the kitchen, a spoon halfway to the baby's mouth, both of them smiling. The caption reads, "Morning routine with my little man. Nothing better than starting the day with this guy. Hashtag dad life. Hashtag best job ever. Hashtag my world." 347 likes, 62 comments. "You're such an amazing dad. Mason is so lucky to have you. Goals. My husband never helps with feeding. Can you teach my boyfriend how to be a dad like you?" I remember when he took that photo. It was a Saturday morning. I had been up since 5 a.m. with Mason, who'd had a rough night teething. I'd already changed 3 diapers, done a load of laundry, and cleaned up the spit up from the living room carpet. I was in the kitchen making breakfast, for all of us, not just Derek, when he wandered in, hair still messy from sleep, and said, "Hand me the baby food. I want to get a picture." He fed Mason exactly 1 spoonful. 1. Then he handed him back to me, checked the photo to make sure it looked good, edited it with some filter that made everything look warm and golden, and posted it. "Perfect," he said, grinning at his phone as the likes started rolling in. And then he went back to bed. That's Derek's version of fatherhood. Curated, performative, a carefully constructed illusion designed to make him look like someone he's not. The worst part? Everyone believes it. His mom calls him at least once a week to tell him how proud she is, how he's such an hands-on dad, how she raised him right. My own mother has said more than once, "You're so lucky, Amanda. Derek is so involved, not like your father was." I want to laugh or scream, maybe both. Because here's the reality that no one sees. Derek has probably spent a cumulative total of 30 minutes actually taking care of Mason in the past 8 months. And even those 30 minutes were staged, photographed, or performed in front of an audience. Let me give you another example. 2 months ago, Derek's parents came to visit for the weekend. I spent the entire week before they arrived deep cleaning the apartment because God forbid Derek's mother sees a speck of dust and judges me for not keeping a perfect home. I scrubbed the floors, organized the closets, stocked the fridge with her favorite foods. The day they arrived, I was a nervous wreck. Mason had been fussy all morning, and I'd barely had time to shower. I threw on clean clothes, put on some makeup to hide the dark circles under my eyes, and pasted on a smile. Derek's parents walked in, and immediately, his mom cooed over Mason. "Oh, look at him. He's gotten so big. Come to Grandma, sweetheart." Derek swooped in, scooped Mason out of my arms, and handed him to his mother like he'd been holding him all day. "He's been in such a good mood today," Derek said, grinning. "We've been playing all morning, haven't we, buddy?" I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. We? We've been playing? I was the one who'd been entertaining Mason all morning while Derek slept until 10 a.m. I was the one who changed his diaper, fed him breakfast, and kept him from having a meltdown. But sure, Derek, we were playing. The entire weekend was like that. Derek playing the doting father, holding Mason during meals, bouncing him on his knee while his parents watched and beamed with pride. And me? I was in the kitchen, cooking. I was doing laundry. I was cleaning up the toys, wiping down the high chair, making sure everyone was comfortable and fed. At one point, Derek's dad pulled him aside and clapped him on the shoulder. "You're doing a great job, son. I can tell you really care about that boy." Derek smiled, all humble and modest. "Thanks, Dad. I just want to be the best father I can be." I wanted to throw something. That night, after his parents went to bed in our room, we gave them our bed and slept on the air mattress in the living room, I finally broke. "You know you didn't do anything this weekend, right?" I said, my voice low so I wouldn't wake anyone. Derek looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "What are you talking about?" "You barely helped with Mason. You didn't cook, you didn't clean, you didn't do anything except show off in front of your parents." He scoffed. "Are you serious right now? I was spending time with my family. I was being a good host." "You were performing," I shot back. "You were pretending to be someone you're not." "Jesus, Amanda." He ran a hand through his hair, exasperated. "Why do you always have to make everything into a fight? My parents had a nice time. Mason was happy. What's the problem?" "The problem," I said, my voice shaking, "is that I'm exhausted. The problem is that you get to play dad for an audience and then check out the second no one's watching. The problem is that I'm doing everything and you're getting all the credit." He stared at me for a long moment, and I thought, maybe, just maybe, he was actually hearing me. But then he shook his head and turned away. "You're being dramatic," he said. "I work all day. I'm tired too. You don't get to act like you're the only one struggling." And that was it. Conversation over. I cried myself to sleep that night on the lumpy air mattress, listening to Mason's soft breathing from the crib a few feet away. It's not just his parents, though. It's everyone. When we go to family gatherings, birthdays, holidays, barbecues, Derek is on. He holds Mason, plays with him, makes everyone laugh with stories about dad life. He'll change a diaper in front of people, and you think he just performed surgery. The women fawn over him. The men nod in approval. "You've got a good one," my aunt told me at Easter. "He's so involved. You're lucky." Lucky. I smiled and nodded, because what else could I do? Tell her the truth? Tell her that Derek hadn't changed a diaper at home in over a month? That he'd never once gotten up in the middle of the night with Mason? That the only reason he was holding our son right now was because people were watching? No one would believe me. Or worse, they tell me I was being ungrateful, that I should be happy I have a husband who even pretends to help. And then there's his friends. Oh God, his friends. At least twice a month, Derek invites his buddies over. Usually it's Jake and Connor, sometimes a couple of other guys from work. They come over around 7 p.m., right after I've put Mason to bed, and they plant themselves in the living room with beer and video games. The first time it happened after Mason was born, I thought it would be a one-time thing. Derek had mentioned it casually that morning. "The guys are coming over tonight, cool?" And I didn't think much of it. But when 7 p.m. rolled around and I heard the knock at the door, my stomach sank. I was in the middle of cleaning up dinner, exhausted from a day of chasing Mason around, and suddenly my living room was full of loud, drunk men. "Hey, Amanda," Jake called out, cracking open a beer. "How's it going?" "Fine," I said, forcing a smile. "Where's the little man?" Connor asked. "Asleep." "Aw, man, I wanted to see him." Derek laughed. "Maybe next time, dude. He's been a handful today." A handful? Derek hadn't even seen Mason since he left for work that morning. I excused myself and went to the bedroom. I could hear them through the walls, laughing, shouting at the TV, the clink of beer bottles. I tried to tune it out, but it was impossible. Around 10 p.m., Mason woke up crying. I went to his room and picked him up, rocking him gently, trying to soothe him back to sleep. But he was inconsolable, probably overstimulated by the noise. I carried him out to the living room, hoping Derek would take the hint and quiet down. He didn't.
"Hey, buddy," he said when he saw Mason, his voice too loud. "Come say hi to Uncle Jake." Jake reached for Mason, but I pulled back. "He needs to sleep," I said. "Aw, come on, just for a second." "No," I said firmly, "he's tired." Derek frowned. "Don't be like that, Amanda. The guys just want to see him." I stared at him, exhausted, holding our crying baby, and I felt something inside me crack. "I need you to keep it down," I said. "Please." He rolled his eyes. "We're not even being that loud." "Yes, you are." "Jesus, fine." He turned to his friends. "Let's take it down a notch, guys. Amanda's stressed." They all looked at me like I was the problem, like I was the buzzkill ruining their fun. I went back to Mason's room and stayed there the rest of the night, listening to them laugh and yell and party in my home like I didn't exist. That was months ago, and it still happens regularly. Derek's friends come over, they make a mess, they're loud, and I'm expected to either hide in the bedroom or play hostess. Sometimes, Derek will ask me to make snacks. "Can you throw together some nachos or something?" He'll say, like it's no big deal, like I haven't already spent the entire day cooking and cleaning. And I do it. Every time. Because I'm too tired to fight, too tired to argue, too tired to care. But here's the thing that really gets me. After his friends leave, after the apartment is trashed and I'm left to clean up the beer bottles and chip crumbs and whatever else they've left behind, Derek will post about it. A selfie of him and the guys, all grinning, controllers in hand. Caption, "Boys' night. Needed this." Hashtag blessed. Good times, recharge. And the comments pour in. "You deserve it, man."
Every dad needs a break. Love this. Balance is so important. Balance. I almost laughed when I read that one. What balance? Derek gets boys' nights, social media praise, a full night's sleep, and a wife who does everything for him. And what do I get? I get to watch him live a life I don't have access to anymore. I get to be invisible while he performs for the world. I get to be his unpaid cook, maid, and nanny while he plays the role of devoted husband and father online. And everyone believes it. Everyone except me. There's a specific kind of loneliness that comes from being married. It's not the loneliness of being single, where you're alone and you know it. That loneliness is clean, honest. You can name it, feel it, do something about it. No, this is different. This is the loneliness of being in the same room as someone who's supposed to love you and feeling like you're separated by an ocean. It's the loneliness of screaming silently, hoping someone will notice, and having them scroll past you like you're invisible. It's the loneliness of raising a child with someone who isn't really there. I think I started to understand this about 3 months after Mason was born. That's when the initial chaos of newborn life started to settle into a rhythm, a brutal, relentless rhythm, but a rhythm nonetheless. And in that settling, I started to notice things I had been too exhausted to see before. I noticed that Derek never asked me how I was doing. Not once. He'd ask if Mason was okay. He'd ask if dinner was ready. He'd ask if I'd picked up his dry cleaning. But he never looked at me, really looked at me, and asked, "How are you, Amanda? Are you okay?" And the thing is, I wasn't okay. I hadn't been okay in a long time. I was drowning in exhaustion, in monotony, in the suffocating weight of being needed every second of every day. My body ached constantly, my back from carrying Mason, my shoulders from the tension I held there, my head from the lack of sleep and the endless mental load of remembering everything, managing everything, fixing everything. But more than the physical exhaustion, it was the emotional exhaustion that was killing me. I felt like I was disappearing, not in some dramatic, poetic way, in a slow, quiet, insidious way. Like I was being erased one day at a time, one ignored moment at a time, one unacknowledged sacrifice at a time. I used to be Amanda. Amanda who loved art and design, Amanda who stayed up late sketching in coffee shops, Amanda who had opinions and ideas and a personality that existed outside of being someone's wife or someone's mother. Now I was just a function, a role, the person who made life run smoothly for everyone else. And Derek? Derek didn't even notice I was fading. One night, about 4 months after Mason was born, I tried to talk to him about it. It was late, almost 11 p.m., and I just finished cleaning the kitchen after dinner. Mason was asleep. The apartment was quiet. Derek was on the couch, as usual, playing his game. I sat down next to him, something I almost never did anymore because I was always too busy or too tired. "Hey," I said softly. "Hey," he replied, eyes still on the screen. "Can we talk?" "Yeah, sure. Just give me a sec. I'm in the middle of a match." I waited. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15. Finally, he paused the game and turned to me. "What's up?" I took a breath, trying to organize my thoughts. I'm struggling, Derek. I'm really struggling." He frowned. "With what?" "With everything. With Mason, with the house, with feeling like I'm doing all of this alone." "You're not alone," he said, sounding almost offended. "I'm here." "Are you?" I asked, and I hated how my voice cracked. Because it doesn't feel like it. It feels like I'm a single mom who just happens to have a roommate. He sighed, that heavy, exasperated sigh that told me he thought I was being unreasonable. Amanda, I work all day. I'm exhausted when I get home. I need time to decompress. And I don't, I shot back. I'm with Mason all day, every day. I don't get to clock out. I don't get breaks. I don't get to decompress. That's different. How? How is it different? Because, he paused, searching for the words. Because you're his mom. That's what moms do. I stared at him, stunned. And you're his dad? That's what dads do too. I do plenty, he said defensively. I work, I provide for this family. That's my job. And mine is everything else? I asked. Cooking, cleaning, all the childcare, all the mental load of managing this house and our lives, that's all just my job? I didn't say that. You didn't have to. He rubbed his face, clearly frustrated. Look, I don't know what you want from me, Amanda. I'm doing the best I can. I want you to help, I said, my voice breaking. I want you to see me. I want you to care that I'm struggling. I do care, he said, but his tone was flat, automatic, like he was saying it because he knew he was supposed to, not because he meant it. Then show it, I whispered. Please, just show it. He looked at me for a long moment, and I thought maybe this would be the turning point. Maybe this would be the moment he finally understood. But then he picked up the controller. I hear you. I'll try to help more. But right now, I really need to finish this game. We'll talk later, okay? I didn't say anything. I just got up and went to bed. We never talked later. That conversation, or lack thereof, was the first time I realized that Derek wasn't going to change. Not because he couldn't, but because he didn't want to. Because this arrangement worked for him. Why would he change something that benefited him so completely? And that realization hit me like a freight train. I was alone in this. Truly, deeply alone. I started to fantasize about leaving. Not in a serious, planning my escape kind of way, more like a daydream, a coping mechanism. I'd be folding laundry or washing dishes or rocking Mason to sleep, and my mind would wander. I'd imagine packing a bag, loading Mason into the car, and just driving. Away from this apartment, away from Derek, away from this life that was suffocating me. I'd imagine living in a small studio somewhere, just me and Mason. It would be hard, obviously. Money would be tight, but at least I'd be free. At least I wouldn't have to pretend anymore. At least I wouldn't have to watch my husband play video games while I drowned. But then reality would crash back in. How would I afford rent? Childcare? I hadn't worked for months. My freelance clients had all moved on. I had no income, no savings of my own. Derek controlled the finances. I didn't even have access to the bank account anymore. He'd simplified things by putting everything in his name after we got married. I was trapped. Not by love, not by commitment, but by logistics. By the cold, hard reality that leaving would mean plunging myself and my son into poverty. So, I stayed. And I resented every second of it. The resentment started small. A flicker of irritation when Derek left his dishes in the sink. A flash of anger when he complained about being tired after sitting at a desk all day. But it grew. It festered. It became a living, breathing thing inside me, dark and venomous and impossible to ignore. I resented him for sleeping through the night while I was up with Mason. I resented him for having hobbies and free time and a social life. I resented him for getting credit for the bare minimum, while I gave everything and got nothing. I resented him for the Instagram posts, the performances, the lies. I resented him for not seeing me, for not caring enough to see me. And worst of all, I resented Mason. I hated myself for it, but I did. I resented my son, this innocent, beautiful baby who didn't ask to be born, because he was the reason I was stuck. He was the reason I couldn't leave. He was the anchor tethering me to this miserable life. And then I'd look at him, at his sweet face and trusting eyes, and the guilt would crash over me like a wave. What kind of mother resents her own child? What kind of monster am I?
So I suffered in silence. I pasted on a smile when Derek's mom called to ask how we were doing. I posted the occasional picture of Mason on Facebook with captions like, "My whole world," and "so blessed," because that's what mothers are supposed to do. We're supposed to be grateful. We're supposed to be happy. We're not supposed to admit that we're drowning. One Saturday afternoon, Derek announced that he was going out with the guys. "Just for a few hours," he said, already grabbing his keys. "Jake's having a barbecue." I looked at him, incredulous. "You're leaving?" "Yeah. Why?" "Because I've been with Mason all week. I haven't left this apartment in days. I was hoping maybe you could watch him so I could, I don't know, take a shower that lasts longer than 5 minutes, go to the store by myself." He frowned. "I already told Jake I'd be there. So tell him you can't make it." "Amanda, come on. I never get to see my friends. And I never get a break," I snapped. He sighed. "Fine. I'll be back by 5. You can do whatever you need to do then." "That's 4 hours from now, Derek." "So?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. But instead, I just nodded. "Fine. Go." He left, and I cried. I sat on the bathroom floor, Mason babbling happily in his playpen in the next room, and I cried until I had nothing left. That night, after Derek came home smelling like beer and barbecue, after I put Mason to bed and cleaned up the mess Derek had left in the kitchen, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. And I thought, I can't do this anymore. But I didn't know what the alternative was. So I just kept going. Because that's what I did. That's what I'd always done. I kept going even when I had nothing left to give. I kept going even when no one noticed. I kept going because what other choice did I have? If you were to ask Derek how involved he is as a father, he'd probably say something like, "Oh, I do a ton. I'm really hands-on." And if you were to ask me, sitting here at 2:37 a.m., rocking Mason back to sleep for the 3rd time tonight while Derek snores peacefully in our bed, I'd laugh. The kind of laugh that sounds more like a sob. Because Derek's definition of hands-on and reality exist in 2 completely different universes. Let me tell you about last Tuesday. It was a rare moment. Derek had taken the day off work. He said he needed a mental health day, which apparently meant sleeping until 10:30 a.m. while I'd already been up for 5 hours with Mason. When he finally emerged from the bedroom, hair tousled and yawning, I was in the middle of changing Mason's diaper on the living room floor. The changing table was in the nursery,
but I'd learned to just keep supplies everywhere because lugging a squirming baby back and forth 20 times a day was exhausting. "Morning," he mumbled, heading straight for the coffee maker. "Morning," I replied, wrestling Mason's legs into a clean onesie. He'd had a blowout, the kind that defies the laws of physics and somehow gets everywhere, and I was on my third outfit change of the day. It wasn't even noon. Derek poured his coffee and stood in the kitchen scrolling through his phone. I finished with Mason, scooped him up, and carried him to his playpen. My back was screaming. I'd barely slept the night before. Mason was going through a sleep regression, which meant he was up every hour, and every muscle in my body felt like it was made of lead. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice light, "since you're off today, could you watch Mason for a bit? I really need to take a shower." He looked up from his phone. "Yeah, sure, in a little while. I just woke up. I need to wake up first." "Okay, how long?" He shrugged. "Like an hour." An hour? To wake up after sleeping for 10.5 hours. I bit back what I wanted to say and nodded. "Fine." I waited. I fed Mason. I cleaned the kitchen. I started a load of laundry. I picked up the toys scattered across the living room floor. An hour passed. Then another. Derek was still on the couch now, playing his game. "Derek, can you watch him now?" He paused the game, annoyed. "Can you wait until I'm done with this match?" "I've been waiting for 2 hours. It's not like he's crying or anything. He's fine." "That's not the point," I said, my voice rising. "I asked you to help. You said you would. I just need 20 minutes to shower and feel like a human being." He sighed heavily, like I was asking him to climb Everest. "Fine. Jesus. Give him here." I picked Mason up and handed him to him. Mason immediately started fussing, reaching for me. He could sense my stress, I think. Babies are like that. They pick up on everything. "He's hungry," Derek said, holding Mason at arm's length like a bomb about to detonate. "I just fed him an hour ago." "Well, he's fussy." "So soothe him." "I don't know how." I stared at him. "You're his father. And you're his mother. You're better at it." "I'm better at it because I do it. I do it every single day, all day, because I don't have a choice. You could learn if you actually tried." "Why are you getting mad at me? I said I'd watch him." I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. Instead, I just took Mason back. "Forget it. Amanda, just forget it." I carried Mason to the bathroom and set him in his little bouncer seat on the floor. I turned on the shower and stood under the water for exactly 7 minutes, long enough to wash my hair and body, not long enough for Mason to get upset. When I came out, Derek was back on the couch, back in his game, like nothing had happened. That's what partnership looks like in this house. Me begging for scraps of help, him acting like I'm asking for the world. The thing is, Derek genuinely doesn't understand why I'm unhappy. He thinks he's a good husband, a good father. He works, he pays the bills, he doesn't cheat or hit me or do any of the obviously terrible things that would make him a bad partner. And by those standards, those incredibly low, bare minimum standards, I guess he's not the worst. But that's the bar we've set for men, isn't it? Don't be abusive, show up sometimes, post a picture with your kid. Congratulations, you're a great dad. Meanwhile, women are expected to do everything: work, childcare, housework, emotional labor, mental load. And if we complain, we're nagging, we're ungrateful, we're not appreciating how hard our husbands work. I used to think Derek and I were partners, equals, that we were building a life together. But somewhere along the way, maybe when I got pregnant, maybe when Mason was born, maybe even before that, the partnership dissolved into something else entirely. I became the manager of our household, the CEO of domesticity. And Derek became the employee who does the absolute minimum and still expects a performance bonus. Except he's not even a good employee. He's the guy who shows up late, forgets half his tasks, and then gets defensive when you point it out. Let me give you an example of how the mental load works in this house. Last month, Mason had his 6-month checkup. I scheduled the appointment. I made sure we had his insurance card. I packed the diaper bag. I wrote down all the questions I wanted to ask the pediatrician. I remembered to bring his vaccination records. The morning of the appointment, Derek asked, "What time is the thing today?" 11, I said. "Cool. Where is it again?" "The same place it's always been, Derek. The pediatrician's office on Maple Street." Right. He didn't come with us, by the way. He had to work. But the point is, even if he had come, I would have still been responsible for every single detail. He would have just shown up. That's what it's like living with him. I carry the weight of remembering everything, planning everything, managing everything, and he just exists. He floats through life while I drown in logistics. Doctor's appointments, vaccinations, when Mason needs new clothes because he's growing like a weed, what size diapers to buy, when we're running low on formula, what foods he's tried and which ones he's allergic to, when his next developmental milestone should happen, what toys are age appropriate. It's all me. And if I forget something, if I drop one of the 1,000 balls I'm juggling, I'm a bad mother. I'm disorganized. I'm not doing enough. But Derek can forget everything, remember nothing, contribute zero, and he's just busy or tired. The double standard is suffocating. There are moments, rare, fleeting moments, where I think maybe things could be different. Like 2 weeks ago, when Mason took his first real steps. I was in the living room with him, encouraging him to walk from the couch to the coffee table. He'd been cruising along furniture for weeks, but he hadn't let go yet, hadn't trusted himself to walk independently. And then suddenly, he did. He let go of the couch, wobbled for a second, and took 3 shaky steps toward me before plopping down on his diaper-padded bottom. I gasped, "Mason, you did it! You walked!" He giggled, delighted with himself, and I scooped him up and covered his face with kisses. "Derek, come here! Derek! Mason just walked!" Derek came out of the bedroom, phone in hand. "What?" "He walked. He took his first steps." "Oh, cool." He smiled, but he didn't put the phone down. "Can you get him to do it again? I want to film it." My heart sank. Of course he wanted to film it. Not because he wanted to witness this milestone, but because he wanted to post it. He wanted proof. He wanted content. "He might not do it again right away," I said. "It just happened." "Just try," Derek insisted, already opening the camera app. I set Mason down and tried to coax him into walking again, but he wasn't interested. He crawled over to his toys instead. Derek frowned. "Come on, buddy, walk for daddy." But he didn't. And after a few more attempts, Derek gave up. "Let me know if he does it again," he said, and went back to the bedroom. I sat on the floor watching Mason play and felt an ache in my chest so deep I thought it might swallow me whole. My son took his first steps, and his father's first instinct was not wonder or pride or joy, but to turn it into content, to make it about him. That night, Derek posted a picture of Mason on Instagram, not from that day, but from weeks earlier. The caption read, "Can't believe my little man is growing up so fast. Feels like yesterday he was born. Time flies when you're a dad. Hashtag blessed. Hashtag proud dad. Hashtag best job." 293 likes. "He's going to be walking soon," someone commented. "He already is," I muttered to myself, staring at my phone in the dark while Derek slept beside me. But Derek didn't respond to that comment, because he didn't actually know. He wasn't there. Not really. He's never really there. I've started to realize something that I think I've known for a while but didn't want to admit. Derek doesn't see Mason as a person. He sees him as an accessory, a prop, a way to build his image as a family man. He doesn't know what Mason's favorite toy is. It's the stuffed giraffe with the crinkly ears. He doesn't know that Mason hates peas but loves sweet potatoes. He doesn't know that Mason gets fussy around 3 p.m. every day and needs to be rocked a specific way to calm down. He doesn't know that Mason's first tooth came in on the bottom left, or that he's been drooling nonstop because 3 more are coming in. He doesn't know that Mason laughs when I make silly faces, or that he reaches for me when he's scared, or that he started saying mama when he wants comfort. He doesn't know his son. And the worst part? He doesn't seem to care. As long as he can take pictures, as long as he can post about being a dad, as long as he can perform fatherhood for an audience, that's enough for him. But it's not enough for me. It's not enough for Mason. And I don't know how much longer I can keep pretending that it is. I've started keeping a mental tally. It's not something I set out to do intentionally. It just sort of happened. A defense mechanism, maybe. A way to validate my own reality when everything around me keeps telling me I'm overreacting, being dramatic, not appreciating what I have. The tally goes like this. Days since Derek changed a diaper, 23. Days since Derek got up with Mason in the night, 247. Literally never. Days since Derek cooked a meal, 89. Days since Derek did laundry? I honestly can't remember. Days since Derek asked me how I'm doing? 64. Days since I've had more than 2 hours to myself? 246. And here's the one that really gets me. Days since I felt like a person instead of a function? 258. That's 8.5 months. 8.5 months of existing as nothing more than a vessel for everyone else's needs. I am a milk machine, a diaper changer, a cook, a maid, a sleep trainer, a toy picker-upper, a laundry folder, a grocery shopper, a schedule keeper, a worry holder, a problem solver. But I am not Amanda anymore. I don't even remember what Amanda liked, what she wanted, what made her happy. Sometimes late at night, when I'm feeding Mason in the dark, I try to remember who I was before all of this. I close my eyes and try to conjure up the feeling of sitting in a coffee shop with my sketchbook, losing hours to the flow of creating something. I try to remember what it felt like to have a conversation with a friend that wasn't interrupted every 30 seconds. I try to remember what it felt like to make a decision, any decision, that was entirely my own and didn't revolve around someone else's needs. But those memories feel distant now, faded, like they belong to someone else entirely. I think that's what grief feels like. Not the grief of losing someone to death, but the grief of losing yourself to life. Last Thursday, something happened that made me realize just how far gone I really am. I was at the grocery store, one of the rare times I got to go alone because Derek was home watching Mason. And by watching, I mean Mason was probably in his playpen while Derek played video games. But whatever, at least I was out of the house. I was walking down the cereal aisle and I stopped in front of the shelves staring at all the boxes. There were hundreds of them, every color, every brand, every variety you could imagine. And I realized I didn't know what I wanted. Not what Derek wanted, not what we should buy because it's healthier or cheaper or whatever. What do I want? I stood there for what must have been 5 minutes, just staring, and I couldn't answer that simple question. What do I want? A woman passing by gave me a strange look, and I snapped out of it. I grabbed the cereal Derek likes, the one I always buy, and kept moving. But the question stayed with me. What do I want? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. And that terrifies me. Because if I don't know what I want for breakfast cereal, how am I supposed to know what I want for my life? That night, after I put Mason to bed, I did something I hadn't done in months. I opened my laptop. My hands were shaking as I navigated to the folder where I used to keep all my design work. Logos I'd created for clients, illustrations I'd done just for fun, concepts for projects I dreamed of starting. I opened one of the files, a series of botanical illustrations I'd been working on before I got pregnant. I'd forgotten about them completely. They were beautiful, delicate, full of detail and life. I stared at them, and I felt this ache in my chest so profound I thought I might break in half. I made these, I thought. I was capable of making something beautiful. When did I stop? I knew the answer, of course. I stopped when Mason was born. I stopped because there was no time, no energy, no mental space for anything except survival. But sitting there, looking at those illustrations, I realized something else. I didn't just stop because I didn't have time. I stopped because Derek never encouraged me to keep going. He never asked about my work. He never offered to watch Mason so I could create. He never treated my art like it mattered. And eventually, I stopped treating it like it mattered too. I closed the laptop and cried. Not the quiet, controlled kind of crying I usually do. The ugly, heaving, snot running down your face kind of crying. The kind that comes from somewhere deep and primal and can't be contained. I cried for the person I used to be. I cried for the dreams I'd let die. I cried for the life I thought I'd have. And I cried because I didn't know how to get any of it back. Derek came out of the bedroom, probably to get a snack or use the bathroom. He saw me sitting on the couch, tears streaming down my face, and he froze. Whoa, what's wrong? I couldn't even look at him. Nothing. Clearly something's wrong. Are you okay? I'm fine. Amanda. I said I'm fine, Derek. He stood there for a moment, awkward and uncertain. Then he said, "Do you want to talk about it?" And here's the thing. I did. I desperately wanted to talk about it. I wanted to tell him everything. How lost I felt, how invisible, how exhausted, how trapped. I wanted him to see me, really see me, and understand what I was going through. But I knew it wouldn't matter. Because we'd had versions of this conversation before, and nothing ever changed. He'd listen, or pretend to listen, and then he'd say something like, "I hear you," or "I'll try to do better." And then we'd go right back to the way things were. So instead, I just shook my head. "I'm fine," I said again, "just tired." He accepted that answer too easily. "Okay, well, let me know if you need anything." And then he went back to the bedroom. I sat there in the dark alone and realized that this was my life now. This was it. This was all there was. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Mason crying. It was 5:47 a.m. I dragged myself out of bed, every muscle screaming in protest, and went to his room. He was standing in his crib, tears streaming down his little face, arms reaching for me. "Hey, baby," I whispered, picking him up. "It's okay. Mama's here." He buried his face in my neck and I held him close, swaying gently. I changed his diaper, gave him a bottle, and brought him to the living room. I turned on his favorite show, the one with the singing animals that I've seen so many times I could recite every episode from memory, and set him in his playpen. Then I went to the kitchen and started making Derek's breakfast. Eggs, toast, coffee. The same thing I made every morning. I moved on autopilot, my body going through the motions while my mind was somewhere else entirely. I thought about the illustrations on my laptop. I thought about the woman I used to be. And I thought about the question I couldn't answer. What do I want? And for the first time, a different question started to form in my mind. What if I left? Not the vague, daydreamy version of leaving I'd entertained before, but a real, concrete question. What if I actually left? What would that look like? I'd need money, a place to stay, a job. I'd need a plan. And even as I thought about it, even as the idea started to take shape, I felt the weight of impossibility crushing down on me. I couldn't leave. I was stuck, financially dependent, legally tied, emotionally drained. And even if I could leave, even if I found a way, what kind of mother leaves her husband? What would people think? What would Derek's family say? What would my mother say? They'd tell me I was being selfish, that I wasn't trying hard enough, that marriage is hard and you have to work at it. They'd tell me to stay. So I did. I stayed and I made the eggs, and I poured the coffee, and I woke Derek up at 6:30 like I always did. "Thanks, babe," he mumbled, shuffling to the table. I didn't respond. I just watched him eat, watched him scroll through his phone, watched him exist in his comfortable little bubble while I suffocated. After he left for work, I sat on the couch with Mason and stared at the wall. I thought about all the years stretching out ahead of me. Years of this, years of being invisible, years of giving everything and getting nothing. And I thought, I can't do this for the rest of my life. But I didn't know what else to do. So I just kept going. One day at a time, 1 hour at a time, one breath at a time, until even breathing felt like too much effort. That afternoon, I put Mason down for his nap and did something I'd never done before. I called my mom. I don't know what I was hoping for. Comfort, maybe? Understanding? Validation? She answered on the third ring. "Amanda, hi, sweetie. How are you?" I opened my mouth to say, "Fine," like I always did. But instead, the truth came spilling out. "I'm not okay, Mom." There was a pause. "What do you mean? Is Mason okay?" "Mason's fine. I'm not." "What's wrong?" I'm drowning. I'm doing everything all the time, and Derek doesn't help, and I'm so tired, and I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this." Another pause. Longer this time. "Honey," she said, and I could already hear the tone shift in her voice, the one that meant she was about to say something I didn't want to hear. "Being a mother is hard. It's the hardest job in the world, but it's also the most rewarding. I know that, Mom, but... And Derek works very hard to provide for you and Mason. You're lucky to have a husband who takes care of his family. He doesn't take care of us, Mom. He goes to work and then comes home and plays video games. I do everything else. That's what mothers do, Amanda. We take care of the home. We take care of the children. That's our role. I felt something inside me snap. So I'm just supposed to be miserable? I'm supposed to sacrifice everything, my identity, my dreams, my sanity, because that's my role? I didn't say that. Yes, you did. Amanda, I think you're just tired. You need to rest. Maybe ask Derek to watch Mason for a bit so you can take a nap. I almost laughed. He won't. Have you asked him? Yes. Well, maybe try asking again. Communication is important in a marriage. Mom, I'm not calling you to get advice on how to communicate better with my husband. I'm calling you because I need help. I need someone to tell me that what I'm feeling is real, that I'm not crazy. You're not crazy, honey. You're just overwhelmed. All new mothers feel this way. Do they? I asked. Do all new mothers feel like they want to disappear? Silence. Amanda, if you're having thoughts like that, you need to talk to a doctor. I don't need a doctor, Mom. I need help. I need Derek to step up. I need someone to see that I'm falling apart. I see you, honey, and I'm telling you, this is normal. It gets easier. You just have to push through. Push through, I repeated flatly. Yes. I closed my eyes. Okay. Do you want me to come visit? I could come stay for a few days, help out with Mason. No, I said. It's fine. I'm fine. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. Thanks, Mom. We said our goodbyes, and I hung up. I sat there, phone in my hand, and realized something devastating. No one was coming to save me. Not my mom, not Derek, not anyone. If I was going to survive this, I'd have to do it alone, just like I'd been doing everything else. Alone. There's a specific kind of loneliness that comes from lying next to someone in bed and feeling like you're worlds apart. Derek and I haven't had sex in 4 months. Before that, it had been 3 months, and before that, another 2. I know this because I've been keeping track, not because I miss it, but because I know eventually he's going to notice. Eventually, he's going to say something. Eventually, it's going to become another thing I'm failing at. And I'm right. It happens on a Saturday night. Mason is finally asleep after fighting bedtime for over an hour. I'm exhausted, that bone-deep, soul-crushing exhaustion that has become my baseline existence. I brush my teeth, wash my face, and crawl into bed wearing an old t-shirt and sweatpants. Not sexy, not trying to be, just trying to survive. Derek comes to bed about 20 minutes later. I can smell beer on him. He and his friends were playing video games in the living room until almost midnight. I'd spent the evening cleaning up after them, picking up empty bottles and chip bags and pretending I didn't exist. He slides into bed next to me, and I can feel the shift in energy immediately. His hand finds my waist, his fingers trace along my hip. I tense. Hey, he says, softly, his voice that particular tone men use when they want something. Hey, I reply, not moving. His hand moves up, under my shirt, across my stomach. I don't want this. Every cell in my body is screaming, no. I'm tired. I'm touched out from holding Mason all day. My body doesn't feel like mine. It feels like public property, something everyone else has access to whenever they need it. But I don't say no. I never say no, because saying no means dealing with his disappointment, his frustration, his sighing and turning away and making me feel like I'm failing as a wife on top of everything else I'm already failing at. So I let it happen. I lie there while he touches me, while he kisses my neck, while he pulls my sweatpants down. I make the appropriate sounds. I move the appropriate ways. I perform intimacy the same way I perform everything else in this marriage. It's over in less than 10 minutes. He rolls off me, satisfied, and within minutes, he's asleep. I lie there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, feeling emptier than I did before. This is what sex has become in our marriage. Another task on my to-do list. Another need I have to meet. Another way I have to make sure Derek is happy. And the worst part is, Derek doesn't even notice. He doesn't notice that I never initiate anymore. That I don't kiss him unless he kisses me first. That I flinch sometimes when he touches me. Not because I'm afraid of him, but because I'm so depleted, I can't stand the thought of giving one more piece of myself away. He doesn't notice because he doesn't see me as a person with needs and desires and limits. He sees me as his wife, and wives are supposed to be available. Wives are supposed to want their husbands. Never mind that I've spent the entire day being grabbed, pulled on, and kneaded by a baby. Never mind that I haven't had a moment to myself. Never mind that I'm running on 4 hours of sleep and my body aches and I can't remember the last time I felt anything other than exhausted. None of that matters. What matters is that Derek wants sex and I'm supposed to provide it. The next morning, Derek is in a good mood. He's humming in the shower, smiling over his coffee. He kisses the top of my head before he leaves for work. "Love you," he says. "Love you too," I reply automatically, but I don't feel it. I don't feel anything. I used to love Derek. I really did. I loved his confidence, his humor, the way he made me feel seen when we first started dating. But that man doesn't exist anymore. Or maybe he does and he just doesn't exist for me. Maybe I'm the only one who sees the real Derek, the one who takes and never gives back. I think about this while I'm folding laundry. Mason is playing with his blocks on the floor, babbling to himself, and I'm mechanically matching socks and folding shirts. When did we stop being partners? When did I become his mother instead of his wife? Because that's what this feels like. I cook for him. I clean up after him. I manage his life. I meet his needs. And what do I get in return? Nothing. Not appreciation, not help, not even basic acknowledgement. Just more needs, more demands, more expectations. I fold one of Derek's shirts, the blue one he wore on our first date. I remember that night so clearly. He'd taken me to a nice restaurant, asked me questions about my life, my art, my dreams. He'd looked at me like I was the most interesting person in the world. Now he barely looks at me at all. That night, after I put Mason to bed, I do something impulsive. I take a shower, a real one, not the rushed 5-minute version I usually do. I shave my legs, I put on lotion, I blow dry my hair. I look at myself in the mirror and I barely recognize the woman staring back at me. My eyes have dark circles under them that no amount of concealer can hide. My skin is pale, dull. I've lost weight, but not in a healthy way, in a I'm too stressed to eat way. My hair, which I used to take such pride in, is limp and lifeless. I look like a ghost. I put on a dress, one I haven't worn since before I got pregnant. It's a little loose now, but it still looks nice. I walk out to the living room where Derek is, where else, playing his video game. I stand in front of the TV. He glances at me annoyed. Amanda, I can't see. Look at me, I say. He pauses the game, finally, actually looking. What? I got dressed up. Okay. Don't you notice anything? He scans me quickly, confused. You look nice. I don't know what you want me to say. I want you to see me, I say, my voice cracking. I want you to notice that I'm trying. I want you to care. He sets the controller down, clearly uncomfortable. Where's this coming from? When was the last time we went on a date, Derek? He thinks. I don't know, a while. Try over a year. We haven't been on a date since before I got pregnant. We have a baby now. It's harder to go out. Other couples manage it. Well, maybe if you asked me instead of just expecting me to read your mind. I shouldn't have to ask, I snap. You should want to spend time with me. You should want to take me out, to talk to me, to be with me as more than just someone who cooks your food and washes your clothes. And I stop myself. And what? He asks. And fuck you. I finish quietly. He recoils. Whoa, what the hell, Amanda? That's what it is, though. That's all I am to you. A service provider. That's not true. Isn't it? I ask. When was the last time you kissed me? And I don't mean a peck on the head before you leave for work. I mean really kissed me. He doesn't answer. When was the last time you touched me in a way that wasn't just about you getting off? Jesus Christ, Amanda, I'm not doing this right now. Of course you're not, I say bitterly, because that would require you to actually see me as a person instead of just someone who exists to serve you. I never said you exist to serve me. You don't have to say it. You show it every single day. He stands up, frustrated. I don't know what you want from me. I work all day. I'm tired when I come home. I'm sorry if I'm not romancing you every second, but I'm doing the best I can.
Are you? I challenge. Because from where I'm standing, you're doing the bare minimum. You're coasting. You're taking everything I give and offering nothing in return. That's not fair. What's not fair, I say, my voice rising, is that I do everything for this family and you can't even be bothered to look at me. What's not fair is that you expect me to have sex with you, but you never touch me with love, just with want, just with need. What's not fair is that I've lost myself completely in this marriage and you haven't even noticed. If you're so unhappy, maybe you should leave, he says, and the words hang in the air like a weapon. I stare at him, stunned. He immediately backpedals. I didn't mean that. Yes, you did. Amanda, you want me to leave because it would be easier for you. Then you wouldn't have to deal with me complaining. Then you could find someone new who doesn't expect anything from you. That's not what I meant. I don't know how to make you happy anymore. You could start by trying, I whisper. But even as I say it, I know it's pointless. He's not going to try. He's never going to try. Because trying would require him to see this marriage as something that needs work, and he doesn't see it that way. To him, everything is fine. He's happy. He's comfortable. And my misery, my loneliness, my desperate need for connection, that's my problem, not his. I turn and walk away back to the bedroom. I take off the dress and put my sweatpants back on. Derek doesn't follow me. That night, I lie in bed next to this man who was supposed to be my partner, my lover, my best friend,
and I feel like I'm lying next to a stranger. We live in the same house. We sleep in the same bed. We share a child. But we're not connected. Not emotionally, not physically, not in any way that matters. We're just two people going through the motions, pretending we're still in love. And I don't know which is worse, the loneliness of being single or the loneliness of being married to someone who doesn't see you. I think about the sex we had last night, how empty it felt, how used I felt afterward. I think about all the times I've said yes when I wanted to say no just to keep the peace. I think about how my body has become just another thing for other people to use. Mason needs it for comfort, Derek needs it for pleasure. And what about what I need? Nobody asks. Nobody cares. I'm just expected to give and give and give until there's nothing left. I roll over, turning my back to Derek, and I realize something that should have been obvious all along. I don't want him to touch me anymore. Not because I don't want touch, I'm starving for it actually, for gentle touch, for affectionate touch, for touch that says I see you and I love you and you matter. But Derek doesn't touch me like that. He touches me like an object, a means to an end. And I've let him. For so long, I've let him. But I can't anymore. I can't keep giving pieces of myself away to someone who doesn't even appreciate what he's taking. The next time Derek reaches for me in the dark, I do something I've never done before. I say no. Not tonight, I murmur. He stops, surprised. Why not? I'm not in the mood anymore. You're never in the mood anymore. Maybe that should tell you something? I say quietly. Like what? Like maybe if you acted like you loved me outside of the bedroom, I might actually want to be with you inside it. He sighs, that heavy, exasperated sigh that makes me feel like I'm being unreasonable. Fine, he says, rolling over, whatever. And just like that, he goes to sleep. No conversation, no attempt to understand, no acknowledgement of what I just said. Just fine, whatever. I lie there in the dark and I feel something shift inside me. A hardness, a resolute. I'm done. I'm done pretending. I'm done performing. I'm done giving my body, my energy, my life to someone who sees me as nothing more than a convenience. I don't know what comes next. I don't know how to fix this or if it even can be fixed. But I know this. I can't keep living like this. I can't keep disappearing in my own life. Something has to change. And if Derek won't change, then maybe I have to. Even if I don't know how. Even if I'm terrified. Even if I have no plan, no money, no way out, something has to change. Because this hollow, empty, soul-crushing existence isn't living. It's just surviving. And I'm so tired of just surviving. 3 weeks have passed since I said no to Derek. Nothing has changed. Well, that's not entirely true. Something has changed. The air in our apartment feels heavier now. Thicker, like the walls are closing in, slowly suffocating everything inside. Derek hasn't touched me since that night. Not sexually, not affectionately, not at all. He moves around me like I'm a piece of furniture. Necessary, but unremarkable. He says good morning and what's for dinner and did you pick up my dry cleaning? But that's it. That's the extent of our communication. We live like roommates, polite strangers sharing a space. Except roommates split the chores. Roommates contribute equally. Roommates don't expect one person to do everything while the other coasts through life unburdened. Mason just turned 9 months old last week. Derek posted about it, of course. The photo was from his birthday party. Just the three of us, really. I'd made a small cake, hung up some decorations I'd bought with money from our joint account that Derek monitors. I dressed Mason in a cute outfit, combed his hair, made sure everything looked perfect. Derek took about 50 photos. He tried every angle, every pose, every filter until he got the one he wanted. Him holding Mason, both of them smiling, the cake and decorations perfectly framed in the background. The caption? Can't believe my little man is 9 months old. Time flies when you're living your best life. Being a dad is the greatest adventure. So grateful for my beautiful family. Hashtag dad life. Hashtag blessed. Hashtag family first. Hashtag my everything. 612 likes. The comments made me physically ill. Best dad ever. Your family is so beautiful. Mason is so lucky to have you. You're killing this dad thing. Relationship goals. I wanted to screenshot every single comment and reply with the truth. He didn't plan this party. I did. He didn't bake this cake. I did. He didn't clean the apartment beforehand. I did. He didn't put up the decorations. I did. He held his son for exactly 90 seconds, long enough to get this photo. He is not living his best life. I'm dying so he can. But I didn't, because what would be the point? No one would believe me. They'd say I was bitter, jealous, trying to tear down a good man. They'd say every marriage has problems, that I should be grateful he's present at all, that at least he's not abusive or cheating. The bar is so low for men, it's practically underground. And somehow, Derek still manages to trip over it and get applauded for trying. Last Tuesday, I had a breaking point. It was 3 a.m. Mason was up again. He'd been fighting a cold, coughing and miserable. I'd been up with him for 2 hours, rocking him, giving him medicine, trying everything to soothe him. Derek was asleep, deeply, peacefully asleep. I stood in Mason's nursery, swaying with my crying baby, and I looked at the monitor on the dresser. I could see our bedroom on the small screen, see Derek sprawled across the bed, taking up the entire mattress, undisturbed. And something inside me just fractured. I walked to our bedroom, Mason still in my arms, and I stood in the doorway. Derek, I said, not loudly, not yelling, just firmly. Nothing. Derek, I said again, louder. He stirred and grunted and rolled over. Derek, I said, almost yelling now. His eyes opened, confused and irritated. What? I need help. With what? With your son. He's been up for 2 hours. I'm exhausted. I need you to take him. Derek looked at me like I just asked him to solve a calculus equation. I have work tomorrow. And I shot back. I have work right now. I've been working for 2 hours while you slept. Amanda, you know I can't function without sleep. I have an important meeting tomorrow. And I have an important life to live? I said, my voice breaking. I can't do this anymore, Derek. I can't keep being the only one who gets up with him. I can't keep being the only one who sacrifices sleep. I need help. He sat up, running his hair through his hair. What do you want me to do? I don't know how to get him to stop crying. I didn't either when he was born, I said, but I learned. Because I had to. Because there was no one else. That's different. How is it different? Because he's your mother. There it was. The truth he'd been dancing around for 9 months. So, because I'm his mother, I don't deserve sleep? I don't deserve help? I don't deserve a partner? I didn't say that. You don't have to say it. You live it. Every single day, you show me that you think my time, my rest, my well-being doesn't matter. Because I'm the mom. Because that's just what moms do. Mason was still crying in my arms, his little body shaking with exhaustion. Derek looked at us both, and for a moment, just a brief, flickering moment, I thought I saw something in his eyes. Guilt, maybe? Or shame? But then it was gone.
I'll take him for a little bit, he said finally. But then you're taking him back. I really do have that meeting. He held out his arms and I handed Mason over. I should have felt relief. I should have felt grateful. But all I felt was rage. Rage that this was considered helping. That him holding his own son for a few minutes in the middle of the night was worthy of acknowledgement. Rage that my suffering was invisible, but his minor inconvenience was treated like a tragedy. Rage that I'd become so desperate, so depleted, that I was grateful for crumbs. I went back to bed, but I didn't sleep. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to Derek walk Mason around the living room. He brought him back after 20 minutes. He won't stop crying, Derek said, frustrated. I think he wants you. Of course he wants me. I'm the only one who's ever really there for him. I took Mason back and spent the rest of the night in the rocking chair in his nursery. Derek went back to bed. The next morning, Derek left for work without saying goodbye. I was feeding Mason breakfast, still in my pajamas, exhausted and hollow. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek's mom. Just saw Derek's post about Mason's 9-month milestone. You two are such wonderful parents. Derek is such a hands-on dad. You're so lucky, Amanda. I stared at that text for a long time. You're so lucky, Amanda. Lucky. I'm so lucky to be dying inside. So lucky to be invisible. So lucky to have a husband who performs fatherhood for social media but can't be bothered to wake up in the night with his own child. So fucking lucky. I didn't respond. I deleted the text and went back to feeding Mason. That afternoon, I did something I haven't done in months. I called my old college friend, Rebecca. We used to be close, really close, but we drifted apart after I got married. She'd tried to stay in touch, but I'd been so consumed by my relationship with Derek, then by pregnancy, then by Mason, that I'd let the friendship fade. She answered on the second ring. Amanda, oh my God, hi. I was literally just thinking about you. Hearing her voice, warm, familiar, genuinely happy to hear from me, made me start crying immediately. Whoa, hey, what's wrong? She asked, her tone shifting to concern. Everything, I choked out. Everything is wrong, Rebecca. Talk to me, what's going on? And I told her, everything, the loneliness, the exhaustion, Derek's complete absence as a partner and father, the performative social media posts, the lack of help, of support, of basic human decency. I told her things I'd never said out loud before, things I'd been too ashamed to admit. She listened.
really listened. And when I finally stopped talking, when I'd emptied myself of words, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Amanda, you need to leave him." "I can't." "Yes, you can." "No, I really can't. I have no money, no job, no way to support myself and Mason." "There are resources, shelters, programs. I can help you research." "I'm not going to a shelter," I said quickly. "I'm not. It's not like he hits me or anything. It's not that bad." "Amanda," Rebecca said gently, "just because he doesn't hit you doesn't mean you're not being abused." The word hit me like a slap. "I'm not being abused," I said defensively. "You're being neglected, exploited, treated like you don't matter. That's abuse, Amanda. Maybe not the kind that leaves bruises, but it's still abuse." I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, but I couldn't, because deep down, I knew she was right. "I don't know what to do," I whispered. "You leave. You take Mason and you leave. And then what? I have no degree, no recent work experience. How am I supposed to survive?" "You figure it out, one day at a time. But Amanda, you can't stay there. You're disappearing. I can hear it in your voice. You're not the person you used to be." "I know," I said, tears streaming down my face. "I don't even know who I am anymore." "Then leave. Find yourself again. You deserve better than this." We talked for another hour. She gave me information about resources, about legal aid, about government assistance programs. She offered to let me stay with her, at least temporarily if I needed to. For a brief, shining moment, I felt hope. But then Mason started crying, and I had to start dinner, and I had to do laundry, and Derek would be home soon, and he'd want his evening to be peaceful and comfortable. And just like that, the hope faded. Because leaving isn't just about wanting to leave. It's about having the strength, the resources, the support to actually do it. And I have none of those things. So I stay. I stay and I cook Derek's dinner. I stay and I clean the apartment. I stay and I put Mason to bed. I stay and I lie next to a man who doesn't see me, doesn't value me, doesn't love me, at least not in any way that matters. I stay because I'm trapped, not by chains or locks, but by circumstances, by economics, by fear, by the crushing weight of a society that tells women we're supposed to sacrifice everything for our families. And if we can't do it with a smile, we're failures. I stay because leaving feels impossible. And every day I stay, a little more of me dies. Tonight, Derek is in the living room with his friends again. Jake and Connor and two other guys I barely know. They're loud, drunk, playing video games and yelling at the screen. Mason is finally asleep after an hour of fighting it. I'm in the bedroom, door closed, sitting on the floor with my back against the wall. I can hear them laughing, having fun, living their lives without a care in the world. And I think about Rebecca's words, "You need to leave him." I think about my mom's words, "That's what mothers do." I think about Derek's words, "If you're so unhappy, maybe you should leave." I think about all the Instagram comments. "Best dad ever, so lucky, relationship goals." And I think about my own words, the ones I can barely bring myself to acknowledge. I hate my life. I hate this marriage. I hate that I can't leave. I hate that staying is killing me and leaving feels impossible. I hate that I'm trapped in a cage with open doors because I'm too scared, too broke, too exhausted to walk through them. I pull my knees to my chest and rest my forehead on them. And I cry. Not because I think crying will change anything, but because it's the only thing I have left that's mine. The only thing Derek can't take from me. Tomorrow, I'll wake up at 5:30 a.m. I'll make Derek's breakfast. I'll take care of Mason. I'll clean the apartment. I'll cook dinner. I'll do laundry. I'll put Mason to bed. I'll lie next to Derek and feel nothing. And I'll do it all again the next day. And the day after that. And the day after that. Because that's what mothers do. That's what wives do. That's what women do. We suffer in silence. We sacrifice endlessly. We disappear slowly, and no one notices. No one cares. No one saves us. Because we're not supposed to need saving. We're supposed to be strong, resilient, capable of carrying the world on our shoulders without complaint. And if we break, well, that's our fault. We should have tried harder, communicated better, been more grateful. We should have been enough. But I'm not enough. I'm not enough for Derek. I'm not enough for Mason. I'm not even enough for myself. And I don't know how to fix that. So I just sit here in the dark, in the bedroom of the apartment I can't afford to leave, married to a man who doesn't see me, raising a child I love but resent, living a life that's slowly, quietly killing me. And I wonder, is this all there is? Is this what the rest of my life looks like? Is this what I survived childbirth, sacrificed my dreams, lost myself for? For this? The answer sits heavy in my chest, suffocating and undeniable. Yes, this is it. This is my life. And I don't know if I'll ever escape it. From the living room, I hear Derek laugh, loud and carefree, and I close my eyes. Tomorrow, he'll post another picture, another caption about how blessed he is, another performance of the life we don't actually have. And everyone will believe it. Everyone except me. Because I'm living the truth behind the performance. I'm living in the cage with open doors that I can't walk through. I'm living in the prison of my own life. And I don't know if I'll ever escape it.